first, I'd just like to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Cassandra. I studied fashion design at Central St. Martin's in London. I've always wanted to do something more meaningful with fashion rather than just making another brand. And it's taken a little while to get to this point where I'd really found something that I resonated with. I was upcycling, recycling, and doing all that, and came here and worked on the production side of the industry, as in the high end as well as in the medium end and the value end. So finally got to the point where I set up a social enterprise a few years ago with a friend, where I learned a lot, sold to Anthropology and ASOS and lots of boutiques, and then I decided to venture out on my own and started Emi Eve.
Well, that segues very well to my next question, which is, could you tell us a little bit about Emi and Eve and the passion behind what you're doing?
Yeah, so I decided to go to Cambodia, which a place I'd never been before, because there's a lot of NGOs there, and I wanted to see if I could talk to any of them and to help them with any design skills. In the end, I ended up meeting the Chan Tatun, the designer that I work with now, who recycles bullets and bombshells, and I'd never seen such a thing before. I'd never heard of such a thing before, and I thought this is just a fantastic design challenge. It just there's so many issues here that are just so interesting. So I decided to start with one product, one small bracelet, and see how it worked out. And in the end, I had a lot more ambitions to create, what to do with this material. So in the end, I put some products together that would be jewelry as well as clasps that could go into bags, because I really wanted to make bags and have fabrics involved as a designer, make it more complicated for myself, typical. But yeah, in the end, what I really wanted to see if he could make a complete clutch out of a bombshell, and it took him a while, but we ended up making one, making actually about 7 or 8 now. We did crowdfunding in August, it was one of the rewards on the crowdfunding campaign, and that went really well. We raised $10,000 US, so that was a great achievement personally for me to put myself out there, but also to really have the money to carry on and do the Christmas inventory. So that's where we're at right now.
This is, your background is design, right? And that's where your expertise is. Help us understand. This is really a new model. Having someone who's gifted in design, partnering with an NGO is such a new model. And can you tell us a little bit more about that? And what is the advantage to that model? And what do you see as the potential for that model?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. It's one that as a designer, I'm really passionate about getting more into. I don't actually work with an NGO as such. I work with individual social enterprises. But as for NGOs, let's say it's a charity that wants to create product in order to raise funds to do their work. I think it's really important for an NGO to realize that you cannot run a business as a charity. You can't really do the product-based business as a charity, and they really need to, in my opinion, make a distinction to what they're going to do and where their expertise lies. I'm always a strong believer of do what you do best and do that well, leave the rest to others, and especially so in terms of a charity and a business that wants to raise funds or economic empowerment for a certain people group that they're trying to help. And where designers come into place really well is taking up that position of creating a really good, outstanding product that is a standalone, excellent product, and not just like a sympathy product. I'm here to eradicate the sympathy product. I'm just, nobody needs another little thing that's just, oh, I must buy it because, there's more efficient ways to fundraise for a charity, I would have thought. So, and like we had it come up before, where a socially conscious product has this extra benefit, has this extra level and dimension that's so interesting. So, and that, for me, that makes, as a designer, it makes it more interesting to create a more dimensional product with meaning. And, with the bullets especially, what can I design with bullets and bombshells that's really interesting? It's not just like, oh, it's a bag with a bullet on top, like here, it's what, it's part of the design. I always want to make it part of the design, and that's really what I'd like to see more of and like to help NGOs with.
Right. Wow. Isn't that amazing? That's really amazing. Could you tell us what do you think? You're kind of in it, and and you really probably have the most experience testing this model. Could you tell us, what do you think the future holds for this kind of thing? I mean, you've mentioned how a socially responsible product can move forward. What do you see as the future? Do you think that's something that's going to grow? Do you think that that's something that's going to become marketable or interesting or has potential for growth in the future?
For definitely. But the thing is, the hurdles are there. The hurdles of, the bottom dollar is always more important in the end of the line for very large businesses. And we've seen that happen in the Bangladesh disasters where, lives are lost for the bottom dollar, which is awful. And I do think people are, because of the media coverage and everything, and the media, again, has a big role to play, that we see more things in front of us in more channels. So we do hear about these things and we do want to do something about it, and the awareness is raised very quickly, exponentially, I think. So I do think people are much more aware, much more interested, and much more willing to pay a bit more, and like we discussed before, and I think it will be more ingrained in society as the media picks up on these things, and as people are more like, let's do something about this. And the collective good, crowdfunding is huge now, and the collective kind of spirit is growing. So yeah, definitely.
You've mentioned already about your company is not an NGO, right? It is a for-profit. And can you just help us understand? I mean, for some people, there's a bit of a disconnect between how can a company be for-profit but also have social impact, right? Could you just tell us why being a for-profit company is important to Emi and Eve and important to the future of the brand?
Well, as a designer, I'm always broke, so it's important that I make some money at some point in my life. So for me, to be really honest, personally, that is an ambition of mine, that I can make some money out of my designs. But I think I've always been interested to do this hand in hand with other people who need the income too. I mean, I could go to a factory. I could easily go to a factory, get a couple of bags made, market it. It's going to be quality controlled, perfect, everything. But I'd prefer to take the long way around and do things more with more meaning, more transparency, more interest, more helping more people rather than just another factory. It's just not interesting to me. I mean, obviously, maybe later I'll need to use a factory, but right now I'm working with an artist in Cambodia. I will be working with a network of bullet recycling artists throughout the world, hopefully, is the plan. And the workshop that I use to make the bags is a small workshop in China that has disabled women and earthquake refugees and all sorts of disadvantaged women that have stranded there and are getting an income now and have an amazing story. And I could go on forever about these stories, but yeah, that's what makes it really worthwhile, to hear these positive stories of transformation. And that's really what I'm about. That's really what makes me tick and what makes me want to wake up in the morning and keep doing it. So. Yeah.
I know you guys are probably sensing now what I felt when I first met Cassandra. I was like, if we had more Cassandras in the world, just imagine if we have more designers that had that same heart, that could do that same thing, that say, what, I'm not going to just make a product that, like you said, is a pity product. I'm actually going to make a product that the market wants, that's cool, that is fashionable. That, people aren't saying, oh, I'm paying more for something, for this T-shirt because, what, people go, I love that product. That's cool, that's really interesting, regardless of the social impact. But the social impact is what takes it that next level, and that's what's so exciting. And I think that's a trend that we're starting to see.